Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the I Am 1-2 podcast with your host, Christopher Cohn. With me, as always, is my great good friend, my producer, the man who makes all this technological, amazing things happen in the studio, Mr. Dan the Man. Dan the Man, say hello to the peeps out there.
How's everybody doing? And this is just all I had. It's so cool to get to sit here with the guy across the table from me and meet up with him every couple of weeks and do this, man. I love your presence.
Thank you. I love you, too. I could not do this without Dan, so while you're doing your commenting out there, make sure you say a shout out to Mr. Dan the Man, because we would not be here today without his efforts. He's putting a lot of hard work behind the scenes. I get to do it and leave, and then he has to sit there and work, get this thing together. So thank you for your presence and for your help in this endeavor. What is this endeavor, you might be asking yourself? This endeavor is our wish to the world to share these tools for healing and for having the best damn life on earth. End of story, full stop. You have no idea until you've done these, because we hear this from every single person who's done the 12 steps. This ain't going to work. I'm different. My situation's just a little bit, and I just don't trust this. I don't believe in God, and I don't think this will work for me. And then at the end of it, they're like, oh my God, I'm so glad I did the 12 steps. My whole life is amazing.
You were right.
You were right, Spons. And this is available for everyone, not just addicts and alcoholics. In fact, I told my group today, as I believe with all my heart, this is the gift that God has given the world in the past century to save us. There is nothing else that's going to save us. Nothing else is going to work for America. This is why they call Bill Wilson, the co-founder of AA and the writer of the 12 Steps, creator of the 12 Steps, that he's the Western Buddha, because he is bringing this enlightenment, and nothing else would work for us because we need fast. We need quick. We need easy. That's the West, right? The East, they can spend centuries practicing their stuff. We don't have the patience. So this works in 4 to 6 months with a good sponsor. Somebody knows what they're doing. They can shoot you through this, and you can have an entire radical life change, which is why we're even bothering to do this. Okay? So hang in there. I'm finishing a book on the 12 Steps for Everybody, same as the podcast, I Am 1-2. If you're new and you're wondering what that stands for, I Am 1-2 means basically, I am another human being struggling with life and I need some damn tools. It's real simple, okay? We're all out there trying to figure this crazy world we have out. And you know what? It doesn't make any sense. And it's getting more no make sense by the day. So, and it doesn't even matter what side of the field you're on for politics or religion or views of opinion. It is just crazy. So we want you to be able to surmount that and feel better and to have tools that work in this world. So join us. Come deal with this thing we call recovery. And we will teach you how to do this and have a great life. And that's our mission. And each week we're going to tackle a different topic, which is this week's topic, which is really important for people to get: powerlessness. What does that mean? How do I do it? How the hell do I let go? Surrender, all that fun stuff. Okay, let's talk about this. So, we always have to go back to where we started from. And in my family system, it was very well understood. I can hear my grandmother on my mother's side saying, if you can't make it work, you just didn't try hard enough. Or you just need to try a different angle. Definitely not give up. Definitely not let go, but just push, just make, apply yourself. For some reason, I can hear that phrase. And there wasn't anything I don't think she thought that she couldn't beat. And I think that just translated to us. It's like, okay, well, it must be me. If it's not working, it's because I'm not trying hard enough. I'm not doing whatever. Well, there's a problem here. When alcoholics were dying by the droves prior to 1935, every single approach to help them said that you're not trying hard enough. You don't really want this. If you loved me, you would quit. Your kids mean nothing to you, apparently, right? If you loved your kids, you would stop drinking. And they couldn't. So Bill Wilson's doctor, Dr. Silkworth, comes to him and says, hey, Bill, I think the reason why you've not been able to stop drinking is because you can't stop drinking. What a novel concept. Oh my God. Miracles, right? The obvious right in front of us. And it's so funny when you listen to people complain, as I do as a counselor, about addicts and alcoholics and what they're doing. They're basically saying, why can't they just be normal? Why can't they just do what I do? Why are they different? Yeah, that's the problem. We have a mental condition that makes us different than regular drinkers. Okay? So when Bill got a hold of that concept and he said, powerless, what? That doesn't make any sense to me, because Bill was a go-go guy too. He was a Wall Street jet setter. He wanted to take the world by the storm. And as he pondered on it, he was able to understand that this is actually a deep-seated spiritual concept within Eastern philosophy, okay? And I'm going to talk a lot about this philosophy in conjunction with powerlessness. And that philosophy in Buddhism and Hinduism is called attachment. The Buddhists firmly believe that attachment is the cause of all the suffering of mankind. So if you're watching this today and you're depressed, you've got some anxiety, a little bit of fear, it's because of your attachment to these things. And that's causing your suffering. We'll get back to that, just a little preview on that shit. So I come into the program and they're talking about you got to let go, you got to admit you're powerless, and you got to let somebody else help you. And I'm like, what? How do you do this? I don't let people in, right? I do it myself. I can handle my business. I'm independent. I'm smart. I'm even smarter than you that's telling me I need to do this. So it was a very difficult concept for me to wrap my head around. Yet I'm sitting in a treatment facility where the doors are locked and I can't leave. I remember I'm the guy that actually went up to the little door and tried the handle just to make sure it was locked, because I didn't believe. First time in my life, I got nowhere, no choice. I can't get out of here. And I don't remember a ton of things. I do remember these films they would show us back in 1983, 84, the 2 times I was in treatment, where 70s kind of vibe to them about drugs and alcohol. Those were kind of funny. But I remember a joke that they told one night, and for some reason, it's weird in recovery, Dan, how certain things stick with you over the years, and you're just like, I don't know why I remember this, but so there's this guy, and he's walking alongside a cliff one day, and he happens to slip and go over the edge. And as he goes over the edge, he's lucky enough to grab onto this stray branch so that he's not going to fall. He's just hanging there by his hands, hanging on this stray branch, and he's looking down a couple hundred feet at his death, the sea and the craggy rocks, and if he falls, he's dying for sure. So he doesn't believe in this stuff, but out of desperation, he just happens to cry out, help, help me, God, whatever, if there's anything there, if you're there, I need some help here. And out of nowhere, he hears this booming voice come out in response, kind of like in a Charlton Heston movie, let go. And he's like, excuse me, I don't know if you know my situation here, but if I let go, I'm going to die on these rocks down there, and I really don't want to do that. So can you help me? I need real help. And again, the voice just repeats, let go. And he's going, you don't seem to understand. And he's getting more and more frantic because he's losing his grip. And he said, I need real help here. I need to know what to do. And the voice says one last time, let go, louder than ever. And the guy finally looks down, he looks up, he looks down, and he goes, is there anybody else up there I can talk to? And that was kind of my philosophy. I'm not going to follow what you're telling me to do. I'm going to try to find an out. And then when it came to powerlessness, I just couldn't wrap my head around it. My whole being said, it sounds like an excuse. Sounds like I'm letting myself off the hook, right? And I get a lot of patients that will do that. They'll say, I don't get this disease thing, I don't get this powerless thing because it feels like I'm letting myself off the hook. When it's actually the exact opposite. What you're doing is you're admitting the truth, which surprisingly is even harder for them than to take an excuse. Addiction and alcoholics doesn't know how to make excuses all the time. But to admit your truth, that you are 100% powerless over something, it's like kind of like pregnancy. You can't be a little bit pregnant. You're either 100% pregnant or you're not pregnant. And that's powerlessness. And yet I see alcoholics and addicts struggle with this concept all the time. And they really suffer from that. So that's what we kind of want to get into about how do you wrap your head around that and why is it important and how do you do this, of course, main thing. So being in recovery, you get the benefit of getting teachers coming in and out of your life. And some of these teachers are on YouTube, and some of these teachers come through cassette tapes. Some of these teachers you meet at meetings. And of all the things I've heard presented about this topic of powerlessness, the one that stuck with me the most And I can't remember the speaker, and Dan might be able to remember who did this. I don't think it was Keith Lewis, but he said, if you have this issue about powerlessness and you don't think, you actually think that you're in charge. I do remember who said this one. This is my second favorite quote. It's Bob Bazance from St. Paul, Minnesota. He said, "I am an ant on a log in the middle of the river going around the bend, and I think I'm steering the son of a bitch." That's our ego telling us I actually have control over something I have no control over. But this other speaker put it more succinctly. He said, all right, so you just woke up. Did you have any power whatsoever about whether or not you died in your sleep? No? Did you have any power whatsoever about whether you woke up healthy this morning or woke up at all? Nope. Did you have any power whatsoever about whether a meteor hit your house or your house caught on fire last night? I know you've taken precautions, you have smoke detectors, but you don't know what your neighbors might do. Did you have any power over that? How about when you got up and you turned on your heat? Did you have any power over your heat, the gas lines coming through and starting your heater? Well, I paid my bill. No, dude. Did you do the actual job to make sure that happened? Did you go down to the heating company and start the pipes and make sure they were running to get it to your house, or did someone else do that? Then he said, what about when you went to your sink and you turned on your water? Did you have any control over that water actually coming through the pipes? Did you go down to the water company, salinize it, clean it, make sure it goes in the pipes, and make sure it got to your house? How about when you went to the grocery store? Did you make sure that food was on the shelves? Did you grow it? Did you package it? Did you take it and ship it to the store? Did you take it out of the box? Did you stock it on the shelf? What made that happen? Was any of that under your power, son? And I needed it spelled out that clearly, because with all of us, crazy fucker, you know what, humans are walking around on earth with this idea that everything's going to be where we want it to be. We had a hurricane come through here in 2011 called Hurricane Ike, and people were flipping out because their cell phones weren't working. We didn't have electricity for 10, 12 days. You've been through any sort of disaster like that, you get a real good schooling in powerlessness, not only from the storm, but afterward. Where's everything you take for granted? How many of us go into the grocery store right now this week? Oh, well, they'll have what I need, and they better have it on the shelf, or I'm going to yell at the manager, and I better have the freshest, and it better be right there. Priced, organized, any of that under your power. Now let's get into people, your kids. Can you control what they do, really? I know you give them guidelines, you punish them maybe. Be strict, but can you actually control what they do? Because I got to tell you, I got a friend of mine that I was counseling the other night that is struggling with another human being in their life that they have zero power over, but they're allowing everything that this other human being is doing to disturb their serenity. And they can't see it. They just want to keep talking about what the other person is doing. And I'm like, no, dude, stop. You can't control that. I'm circling around here, but that's the value in powerlessness. And that you get a recognition of truth of the things that you can control and the things that you can't control, which is our serenity prayer. It's a major part of our program. God grant me the serenity, accept the things I can control, accept the things I can't control, and do something about the things I can, right? But why is that so hard for us? Why is it so hard for us to keep that line? Now, as I was first starting out to practice these principles, I realized that to accept the powerlessness concept, I'm going to need a higher power on the other side of that. And that's the hit. That's the hit of recovery. I can't just let go to the nothingness, right? That's too frightening for a human being. But I've got to somehow let go to this power that I don't even believe is there, but it's got to be a concept that works for me, whatever that is. And so for me, as I was starting out and they were talking about building your higher power, I got into this concept of a partnership. I don't know, somebody probably gave it to me, but that clicked with me. And I started saying things like, all right, God, I don't believe any of this and I don't believe you're there, but I'm going to do my part. I'm going to do what I have control over and be responsible for that. But you're going to have to take care of every damn thing else in my life. And I tried really hard to practice that. 50-50, boom, shake on it. I did a little imaginary shake and everything. And that's where I started relying on practicing powerlessness in my life. Because here's the deal with addicts and alcoholics, and I'm sure it's true in other human beings, but it's really fierce in us. When I'm going out to get my shit for the day, I'm like stressing whether or not the grocery store is going to be open, whether or not there's an emergency, whether or not there's going to be a ton of people there. Am I going to get my stuff and get in and get out easily? Is it going to be fresh? Are they going to have my brand? Or sometimes you go to the shelf and they don't have the product you really want. And I'm already stressing about that as if I have some control over that, right? And then that relates back to that word attachment. I am attaching my emotions and my intentions to things I'm making up in my head that I can't control in the exterior world. And all of us do that. When we're on our way to work, we're projecting our day. Oh, that client better come in and he better sign that contract, because if I don't, my boss is going to get my ass. You don't have any control over whether he comes in and signs it. So what's the alternative? Am I just going to do nothing? No, dummy. The alternative is I'm going to start to trust this other power is going to take care of me. And you won't believe it until you exercise this tool and see it happen. You got to practice it first, right? So it's so hard for us to let go. Think about how hard it is for us human beings just to go to sleep. Sleep is the ultimate let go, because you are completely vulnerable to the world while you are asleep. Anybody can come in and kill you, okay? Unless you're a light sleeper, you hear them coming, or you got some little traps around the place. So just for us to do that, and we have to do that to live, we have to let go completely and go into another place in our mind where we're completely vulnerable to the world every night if we're going to stay sane. And how hard is that? But then when you're talking about, well, you mean I got to let go of my kids, their health, let go of, well, my daughter's got medical problems. How can I let go of that? I need to manage her medical problems. Yes, obviously, but you're going to need a sponsor in your life that's going to have to help you differentiate what are the things you're supposed to manage that's part of your side of the bargain, and what are the things higher power is going to take care of for you, okay? Because, again, the opposite, you'll hear a lot of addicts come in and say about powerlessness, oh, well, I guess I just let go and don't do anything, and I'm the hole in the donut, and God will just do it for me. It doesn't work like that. My job is to get out of bed, set the alarm first, make sure I get some sleep, put my clothes on, hopefully a little underarm deodorant, whatever. I have to do these tasks. And when I do my part, and then I let go whether or not the grocery store is going to be open, or whether the government's going to crash today and the dollar's going to crash, or all that other stuff that we agonize about. And mind you, the world is conspiring all the time to make us feel like we do have some control over these things. I looked at my inbox, I don't know why, on my phone for my email, and I had an email from my 401k about a stock, blah, 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 they want me to worry about, maybe change. I had an email from a hospital that I went to once that's trying to tell me about measles and whether I need to get a vaccine again and blah, 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 and I wasn't reading that shit right now. And then I had another email about some other catastrophe or something, and I was like, why are they giving me this impression that I'm supposed to read this right now and jump right on it like an action list? Like, oh, I must do something about this right now. That's the control piece. That's the lack of powerlessness. That's the attachment, that it just sucks you right in like that. Now, ultimately, what is the biggest thing we have no control over? We could say Mother Nature. Yes, I agree. We could say the stock market. Well, yeah, true. But what about death? We had an episode on that a little while ago, and people are saying it was very helpful because we don't talk about these things very often. And I appreciate the feedback. Please send us your comments. iam12recovery@gmail.com. That's our email, iam12recovery@gmail.com. And or just comment below about your recovery journey. But death, with all my patients, number one thing they have the hardest time letting go of or dealing with, right? And I know that my good friend Dan had a great leg up on learning about powerlessness this past couple of weeks. So I want to bring him into the conversation, and then we'll percolate and circulate back around on some tools to deal with this thing and how do we actually do this. But again, just to sum up before we do that, this is a smart way to live. I've watched other people live who don't have this tool, and they suffer more in life. They stress more. They can't sleep. They've got less serenity. They're not as happy. But the people that practice this tool of knowing very well what I have control over, and knowing very well, this is something that falls under powerless, so I'm just going to let it go. Just for today. I'm just going to let it go. I'm not going to think about it. I'm not going to dwell on it. Not easy. I got 41 years practicing this stuff. It is not easy, but I can tell you it's worth it, and you'll get better as you go along. So Dan's struggling with this let go and powerless stuff big time right now. I'll let him tell a little bit about his experience. And it's really why I wanted to touch on this today, because he's my best friend, and he's going through a really hard time right now. And I wanted to give him a chance to share and get some of this stuff off of him as well. So you're up, my friend.
Just crossed over 10 years, and I think I had to be practicing this long before this particular situation could land on me. I lost my mom at 14 months sober and went through a whole completely different thing. But there's a complete different energy today where I'm at with my dad health failing. And he's my rock star, man. You people on the podcast, listen to both my podcasts, you've heard me say 100 times that I hit the jackpot in the dad department. And to watch him suffer, and then but have the ability to grasp this powerlessness concept, that there's nothing I can do. And that's one of the things that bothers me when I see people that like attach, like you said, somebody in their life is dying or suffering or whatever, and there's a piece of it like it makes it. Make it about me. It's like, no, this is not about me. It's about doing the best I can day by day to help that dude walk wherever we're walking. I like when you said something. The world today is worse than ever at throwing stuff at you
to worry about.
We made a trade in your 401k. Do you want? Delete. So I know how to do that today, man. But it does. It promotes this delusion that maybe I do have some kind of control. And this whole thing's a big practice, right?
What about those people that get so sucked in that that's all they do is immerse themselves in politics or the news and make themselves visibly sick and even admit that this isn't good for me? They know this, but it's like an addiction. That fear of letting go can be kind of an addiction in itself, in a weird way.
Yeah. And how beautiful is this powerlessness concept?
It's peaceful.
If you can get a hold of it, and we're not perfect. That's another one. There's so many cool lines, man. I am not a saint. I don't have to be perfect at this, but I am a victim of the delusion that if I just work hard enough, I can manage well.
I can wrest satisfaction out of this life.
Wrest satisfaction and happiness out of this life. And it's again, these are weird concepts, because when I first walked in here, man, I'm like, what do you, I don't understand you. And that's the thing about practicing this. And I shared the other night about like, it hit me. There's been a few things that's hit me here lately about, I made an investment with you, with the Spiritual Underground, with these podcasts. I've made an investment in my recovery, and other people invested in me as a result of that. So I don't have to do it alone. Got all kinds of people helping me, and I just appreciate that they listen to me.
I invested with my time and energy. You've put in the time, and you've shown that energy of being there for them, and now it's there for you.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it's another one of these things. Some of this feels like I got lucky, and some of it I got pressed into because I was looking at that prison time and all that. But I try to carry that message to these other people that you don't get to walk off for a couple years and come back and we're humans. Some dynamic. I wish I could give that support to the brand new guy, like he was stuck, like I've been seeing him every Tuesday night for the last 3 years. But it's hard to do. It's really hard. You have to earn that, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you earned it like a mug, man, of sticking around and putting your time and energy into the other men and women, and they'll pay you back. They'll put their energy into you too, and it's
What do you do though when you see a friend or a loved one like that that's suffering from being unable to let go of something they can't control? And it could be anything. I mean, you went through your daughter's addiction.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a number one thing. You got no control over that.
Yeah.
I know
Mom
people
died.
will think
Yeah.
so. I'm going to lock her down. I'm going to put the law on her. I'm going to,
Well, handcuff her to the bed.
yeah, she'll find a way
She
out.
went out the goddamn window.
You were talking to me about nailing the window shut, weren't you?
I actually did. After she left. And that's another one of those things where you're, because we do have some things we can do. There's things we can do. And that line, that dichotomy about
And
where
who do we
I'm
go
going
to?
to exert my power, and where's that line where
And who do we go to find out where that line is?
my sponsor.
And if I don't
And
have
mentor.
that, somebody who's objective, right? That's the issue. I'm too close to the fires of my own emotions. I don't have that clarity. I need somebody standing over here going, "You're standing in the middle of a fire. You need to move left," because he can see the whole picture and I can't, right?
And that's another cool thing about sticking around for a while, man, because I got some strong men in my life that have been sober and practicing this for a while, And I can throw the dime in the phone, so to speak, and a guy will lay something at my feet like LJ the other day that I went, thank you. I didn't see that, And of course I get most of it from you, and this whole thing about it being taught that I just need to try harder. And it's a delusion. Most of the time. So many times when I detach from things that are going on, they will like right themselves.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
I've seen that 1,000 million times.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of what logic tells me. Because I'm like, well, I have talents I can add to this situation to either fix it or make it better. But maybe I just need to not put my dog in that fight. As I was taught, don't put your dog in every fight. You'll get a fucking beat up dog back and it won't be able to fight again. But I'll just sit back and see what develops, let it unfold. And doing nothing worked out better than anything I could have done.
Yep, just stepping aside, man, and let it go. And again, this thing about like seeing life in the rearview mirror. When it's in the front of me, charging at me, I'm freaking out, right? And then once you go by, well, it worked out okay. No big deal. And over and over again, I learned from you that nothing needs it. Very, very few things need attention right now. Almost nothing, really.
Unless you're bleeding.
Yeah, right. Yeah. If blood's coming out of you or something like that, you probably ought to handle it. But over and over again, when I would step out of I'm standing in the center line of the highway and all these cars are coming at me, and if I would just step over on the sidewalk, the danger, what my perceived danger, leaves.
So when the Buddhists said life is suffering, they're talking about that attachment that we give to things, to people, to our homes, to our bank accounts, our cars, whatever it is, our clothes. And it's not our identity, but we confuse that and think those things are our identity. Like I'm a mom, or I'm a worker, or I'm a counselor, or whatever it is. Those are roles you're playing, but that's not your true self. And recovery puts you on this path where you can actually let go enough for some other forces to come in your life that never would have if you had been in total control. That's the gift of powerlessness. And I'm so glad I'm thinking of remembering to say all this. You cannot have outside influences such as a higher power come into your life without giving up something of your control. You can't. You're allowed to have free will. You're allowed to do whatever you want. As I told people in my group today, you want to go smoke on a crack pipe, sleep with a whore, get a disease, you're welcome to go do that today. You can do all that. There's no judgment. You may come from a background that tells you there's a judging God, but there's not. You have the gift to do what you want with your life. But if I do let go and I'm powerless and I ask this power to come in, I can have people come in I never would have met. I could have opportunities open up I never would have had open up. That's the only reason I met the Dalai Lama and spent 10 days with the son of a bitch, was being open and letting go. But it's a practice you just have to keep in the front of your mind. Is this something I can do something about right now, or do I need to just focus on this? And particularly when I'm like trying to write or something like that, TikTok, and I don't have TikTok, but I got YouTube feeds and emails and texts from you guys and polos. They're all trying to steal you away. And I got to go, wait. I want to hear what Dan has to say right away, but just finish your writing. And it's hard. It's hard not to be easily distracted.
But it gets easier.
It gets easier with time, for sure. You also get that experience of seeing it work out.
Yep.
And the more it works out, the more you Bill said, it becomes a working part of your mind. Right. The more you rely on that power that it is going to show up.
Yep.
And so, like with your dad, I've watched you work that this week, that, you know what, if it's his time, then, I'm okay with that, and I'll spend as much time with him as I can and do everything I can for him right now. And if it's not his time, he might live to be 100.
Yeah.
And you got to be okay with both.
I do.
Right?
Yep. Yeah. Scott Lee thing, when he was having his separation issues, he was somebody offered him that if it's your will that we be together, let us be together. If it's your will that we're not, help me be okay with that. And that's these things, these teachers do that, and it kind of lands with Dad. If he's going to stick around for 10 years, great, but help me be okay if he leaves tonight.
So think about that, everyone, as you're listening to this podcast. What are you holding on to right now that you're unwilling to let go and trust God with, or your higher power, or whatever?
Man. Kids are so hard to do that. You and Darren helped me so much with that. I got a responsibility to be some guide rails down the outside, but I can't keep them in the middle of the road. They're gonna do what they're gonna do, and they have to have their journey.
Let's help the people out there with this. Why are they gonna do what they're gonna do?
I am not going to answer that.
You're going to say, I don't know, Spots. Why don't you tell me? So the concept that was introduced to me by my teachers is that you're not really the owner of these individuals. You're the custodian of these individuals. And your job is to guide them and provide them guardrails to keep them alive. But they have their own soul's journey. And you cannot get in the way of that.
So I had to go around and put them little plastic things in the outlet. But I couldn't stop them from jerking them back out,
That, and also you can't stop it if it's in your daughter's blueprint to experience drug and alcohol addiction. Her soul has to go through that. I love the guy you had on your podcast, you probably remember his name, who did a reading for you and described about...
Man, it's been a while, yeah.
That balance between free will and your blueprint.
Yeah.
He may have used different terms for it, because I was always confused about that too. He said, ultimately you do have the free will to ignore your blueprint, but the heat will keep turning up on it. The consequences, it'll keep showing up in your face, because there's just certain things. Now some teachers would say you chose these challenges in this lifetime, as my old teacher would say, to shine up that facet of your diamond. A diamond, when you turn it, has all different angles and facets that need shining to become that perfect soul, as you're earning your good karma. But like with your daughter, if that's in her blueprint and it's showing up, there's not a damn thing you can do about that.
It's not a thing, man.
And I'm telling everybody out there that today, with whatever you're struggling with, the money or whatever you're holding on to so tight, there's a peace to be had. When I first finally let go in the program, it was the first moment of peace I think I ever had on earth in my early recovery. Right? Because I can kind of remember the moment where it was like, you mean I don't have to be in charge of everything? I don't have to keep all the balls up in the air. Like the guy on the old Ed Sullivan show had the plates, the spinning plates. He's trying to keep them all going. That's people out there everywhere you look. And isn't it interesting? We can always see it in someone else. Can't see it in us.
Yeah.
But this gentleman the other night, I'm just like, you are in pain. Why are you in pain? Because of this other person and what they're doing. What would be the solution? To pull away from what this other person is doing. But they can't. They circled right back to, well, let me tell you this. I didn't tell you this story, what they're doing.
I think we actually insert ourselves harder sometimes.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
That.
And it's a weird thing, because I've learned, I wasn't any good at it, but as these other people are pulling and causing me issues, I got some dynamic in me that makes me want to get it. It's that trying to fix, manage, control. I want to get in there and put exert my so-called power into making stuff better.
I think that's correct. I think there's also this angle that I need validation that they fucked me over. I need validation that they did me wrong. And it's like, okay, I get it. All right, they're a total, whatever word, fill in the blank. We won't say them all so we don't get banned on YouTube. But right, okay, I agree with you. They're a total blah. But what do we do now? Now that we've accepted that, I'm not taking anything away from your pain. We will honor your pain. We'll hug you through your pain. We'll help you cry. But you've got to try a different tactic. And that's what was so revolutionary for me about powerlessness, is because I never heard of that approach. And I would guarantee a lot of people listening to this are probably like, I still don't understand it. Well, it is a deep concept. Yeah. But life will have a way of reasserting itself in your life when you're going to have to deal with something you're 100% powerless. Let me give you an example. I had a
One day you're going to have to go to the mountain.
Yep, that's what Scott Lee said. You better be ready. And thank God I was. But, I had a medical condition show up that out of nowhere. No freaking genetic history whatsoever of this. Nobody has even heard of it. Won't get into the details. But it is a medical condition that when it strikes, nothing else in your life is important. It literally, like, you want to watch your TV show? No, we're not doing that. You want to have something to eat? No, we're not doing that. You even want to walk? No, we're not doing that. You're fucking laying down and you're grabbing on for dear life and you're suffering through this till you can get your medications to take hold, and hopefully you won't puke them out in the process. And you have no idea how I've had to reconcile. But I want to do this, and I want to go to my meeting. I missed my 40-year anniversary in my home group because I had an episode that night. How do you make peace with that without being like, fuck you, God? And that's the way I always was. I was born with my fist in the air. And you have to make peace with that. You have to roll with the punches, because if you don't, standing as that reed against the raging river, as they used to say, you'll snap and you'll die. You got to learn how to bend.
And I've been with you through that. That's happened since me and you have been together, where we didn't know what the hell was going on. You didn't know what was going on. And
no, we went to the emergency room. They didn't know what was going on. I thought I had a brain tumor or something.
And again, the power of mentorship and sponsorship, this kind of stuff, because I watched you navigate that, man. And it helped me navigate the next thing that was in my path.
So when the universe shows up like that, and it's like, okay, we're going on this path for whatever reason, rather than fight, try to roll. Try to be like, all right, well, there must be some value. It's hard to see any in this, to be honest with you.
Particularly in that one.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. But, sometimes you're like, well, did I do something in a past life? I don't know. I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. I mean that sincerely, but well, maybe my worst enemy. I have to say that. But it's just, what are you going to do? That's kind of my approach. People are like, well, and then, boy, I'm telling you, anybody out there, you got a medical condition, watch people come out of the woodwork. Well, have you tried this crystal ball? This really is amazing.
Put this next to your ear while you're sleeping.
Yeah, you need to hold some magnets in your hand and do this and that. I know they mean well. And I'm like, oh, Lord, you know what? God bless you. But this is such devastating, debilitating pain. I want to reach out and slap you in the face right now, so shut up.
Because I know you don't have the answer either.
No. And it gave me great solace when a very famous musician came out and said, yeah, it ended my career. And I went to every doctor in the world, and I have money. I went to the top place, Mayo Clinic, Johns Hopkins. He named them all off. And at the end of paying all that money with all these brilliant doctors, they all looked at me and said, don't know what to tell you. We don't know much about this.
Yeah, we have kind of a weird thing where we'll hug it in. I don't think me and you do, but people out there in the world, like there will be this painful event, and we pull it in closer rather than move away from it.
And explain that too, because I think that's a good concept to build on. Pull it in closer, like this defines me.
Well, I like another Scott Lee thing where he's talking about like these resentments, and we give them a safe harbor. Well, we bring them in and like cultivate them and put some fertilizer on them and pet them on the head and stuff, and when it's clearly something that is having a negative effect on me, and instead of putting some distance and detaching, this human condition thing, at times we want to pull it in close.
Mm-hmm. And or go to battle as men. And that was something I was very clear that I learned. This thing was going to win regardless. So fighting was futile, but I did want to get on my high horse and we're going to figure this out and we're going to make this work and I'm going to fucking avoid
We'll fix it.
I just wanted to avoid going through it.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, this is what you're doing. This is part of your journey for whatever reason. And I've made peace with it, and it's, it's dealable. But
And it seems to have gotten better as you've done that.
Mhm.
The spaces between the episodes appear to be greater
part of that's
than it
the
used to.
natural progression of the illness, and then there's other consequences because of that. So, but I do know that learning to listen to my body's dictates instead of fighting. So, for instance, if it's saying, hey, dude, I'm here, and I'm about to blow your world up, because first thing I want to do is, I want to go to my meeting tonight, or I want to do this. It's like, no, maybe you should listen and take your medicine and go to bed.
I need to throw up the white flag.
I need to
For a
take
minute.
care of me, and it's not easy for us addicts and alcoholics.
Or anybody, really, I don't
Well,
think,
I
right?
guess that's true.
This powerlessness thing isn't limited to people who have substance abuse issues and stuff, man. This is, I think this is one of these podcasts, and when we said we try to like rotate them, this is everybody.
And so think about that today for you. What were you worried about in the news or for the future? AI, whatever's happening in the government. We don't need to say it, but you all know what's happening. And, how much time did you spend worrying about it today? Look, being educated and informed is one thing, but worrying, that's the line. Dwelling, that's the line. Carrying it around, telling somebody else, because that's passing the negative, the poison onto them, right? And we always got to tell somebody, did you hear what happened today? Oh, my God. Depending on how miserable your life is.
Yeah.
If you work I used to work in a warehouse, people couldn't wait to tell you the more
Yeah, I'm going to go find something that's terrible. I'm going to share it with everybody I know. Make sure they saw it, too.
Commiserate. So I want to share a tool with you that my sponsor, when he was telling about what he does every morning. And this is a man who's done more in Louisville for recovery than anybody, period. And he's helped more people than I'll ever hope to help in my lifetime. And I want to honor his legacy and do the best I can because of him. Very grateful he was part of my journey. But Burns used to say, before I even get out of bed in the morning to pee, he would lay there and he would have this conversation. I'm going to embellish it because he just said a standard way of doing it. But I was like, no, man, I relate more to this. He goes, I'll say, okay, God, talk to me. And God's going to go, Burns, now look, before you even get your foot on the floor, most of what's going to happen today you're going to have very little control over. And because you're an alcoholic, that committee in your head is going to tell you you need to assert some control. You need to try harder. You need to manage this. You need to make it work. Now, you already know that doesn't work, but it's still going to tell you to apply that tactic, which means you're going to be insane at that moment. So before you even get up to face all that powerless stuff, and before you jump into your seat of management, manager of the day, where I'm going to be running all the channels and making it happen, and that's another one we need to talk about is people who are managers in stores and in businesses, and they don't understand the difference between letting go and managing. But said, before you do all that, why don't you invite me into your life and take my hand, and I will help guide you through this storm to figure out what you need to do and what you don't need to do during the day. And that worked out for him for many, many years, staying sober. What was it, 48, 45?
I don't know how long it was.
It's long sober time. So, but I have heard that one too, and I had that experience. I was a manager in the corporate world that, places that concerned about the bottom line and money only, right? So they're telling you, you need to make this happen, blah, blah, blah.
This is my job.
Yeah. And if it's not happening, it's on you. You get fired. So there is a thing, though, that, I'm going to work with my people, and I'm going to do everything I'm supposed to do to make sure the product's there and it's ready to go and we're making money and selling. But there is a line that, there's a tornado warning and it's going through and there's no customers coming in the place. What are you going to do? You better learn how to make peace with that. If not, you're barking at your employees about something because you're frustrated because you're like, I got to make this money, but I can't make this money because of the damn tornado. And so you got to be flexible, man. And I found that when I worked with my employees using these tools, they love me a lot more. And I can see a progression from my first corporate store I was running to the next one to the next one as I got better in learning how to use the tools instead of just listening to corporate, do this, do this, do this. You can't do your own thing. They're not watching you all the time. And my last store, it really touched me on our last day that they got to the store early on a Sunday, all of them, people who weren't even on schedule that day, and they took pictures of themselves in the craziest places and poses to give me this album of memories from the store. This was a store I opened, and so I started with them. We took possession of four bare walls and nothing, and we had to build the shelves and start from scratch. It was insane, most work I've ever done in my life. And so they had the guys dress up in the women's clothing, and they had some of them sitting in the dumpster with their head peering over like that and stuff like that. And just things they knew that we had in common from our memories, right? Where do you get that? Where does a boss get that from their employee? Or are they like, well, he wasn't here but a year.
Yeah.
We'll get another manager. It's like, then we'll get another manager. Who cares, right?
Yep.
And yet, those are the memories you're going to take to your deathbed.
Right.
Right? Those connections.
And I get it like in my 12-step community, but also we wear that out in the world because we've got tools and people appreciate it, and they may or may not understand what's going on, but they appreciated you because you had tools.
Yeah. And it's funny how you touch people's lives, and it was so long ago, you're like, you wonder what they're doing now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm potentially going back to do part-time stuff at my old job, and I had pretty much severed that. And I had 20 people see me in that building and come by and put some joy on me. I don't really, what it is, but they were happy to see me, and it was mostly because of those last 4 years that I worked there as a sober man. You get to, get paid back when you're doing this deal.
So another tool is to pause before you act. How we get anxiety going and fear, and I need to do this now. I mean, for me, anytime I get an envelope from my insurance company, and it's probably a solicitation. I got one yesterday. They want me to sign up for Teladoc or some stupid thing. And I was like, oh, what's this? Oh my God. And you got to slow it down at that point. You got to, all right, pause. Don't open it right away because you want to jump right on it. Like, oh, it's this shit. Just take your time. Take that control back. Surprisingly, when I say let go and powerlessness, take a little bit of that control back. But if you can slow it down, then you can make better decisions. And then you can maybe talk to someone when you do have a situation and ask that person that you trust, is this something I can really do something about that you see? What could I really do? What would you do? Or is this something I need to let go for, even if it's just for now, even if it's just for tonight? I've seen a lot of people make themselves sick on vacation over something they didn't have to deal with till they came back from vacation. I'm getting ready to take a few days off work. Guess what? I'm not going to think about what's happening when I come back. It's still there. I know at a mental hospital there's going to be a ton of shit waiting for me. But I'm going to keep going, nope, get away. I got to tell you, one of the things I enjoy more than anything else, and this is crazy, I don't like doing chores. Trust me. I'm not a guy that likes clean house and do all that shit. But it is a peaceful period of the day. When I really do it once a week, a full deal, and I got a little podcast playing or something, got the earbuds in, and I'm going at my own pace. I'm not rushing. I'm not like, I got to get this done because the clock, oh my God, we got to go to work tomorrow. We got to go do. No, I just go at my pace. I do the next thing, then I do the next thing. It's becoming kind of a meditative practice in a way, a little Buddhist practice. And, letting go, just like we started with that joke, can be a really good thing, surprisingly. So, anything else you want to say about...
What was the gal that was on Saturday Night Live, and she said about being in a rat race, but you're still a rat, And it's,
I haven't heard that.
I have to look it up and get it back. But we have the opportunity to set like a different pace in our life, We don't have to just whack-a-mole is one of the ones that I always think about. That's with my problems. When that perceived problem pops up, I think I got to hit it right now. And I like doing like what you said. And in my life today, I can work at a pace that works for me. I don't have to have all that built up energy and anxiety and trying to get every damn thing done today. And it'll happen or it won't.
And what's crazy, and I want to get your validation on this, because they're going to say, well, of course, Christopher's going to say this, but let's hear your opinion. A direct correlation between how much I let go and how easy my life is. How much I let go and how many things work out just fine. And things you wouldn't even imagine, like I get the date at the doctor I needed, or I get the bill paid, and all of a sudden it's paid for me by something else, and you're like, what? How'd that happen? And I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do.
Skids are
just
greased.
Do what's in front of you. Do the next right thing.
Yep.
Skids are greased.
Yep.
But it's crazy. It doesn't make sense, right?
Yep. But the evidence piles up, and if you will stick around, I will witness you doing that, and you will witness me, and I'll have a pile of it behind me, and that guy, and I see it pile up, and I believe in it, and I see that this is real. This is
so
not
hard
bullshit,
for a
man.
newcomer, though. Like, if
hard.
you're a newcomer watching this, you are struggling because you've got a court date, or you've got a foreclosure on your house, or you've got a spouse
She's
that's left
leaving,
you. Yeah. And you're like, I got to do something. What you're not offering me what I need to do. You're telling me to let go, man. And I don't trust this stuff yet. And we just want to say, dude, we have a power here in this program through these 12 steps. We can get you a power to fix all that, not just one piece, all of it. Have you not seen that work in every man's life you've ever worked with?
Time after time, man. I sit here Monday night when my two opposing recliners, where so many men have sit, and I, at some level, I'm trying to sell this thing to them, you know, because I want them to stick around, because I know this is real. And in that beautiful time later on, when they go, Dan, thank you. You were right. Thank you. And their life is going a whole lot better than it was.
And then you get to turn around and do to them what I did to you. And you get to say, well, you know what that is, don't you?
You know what that is, don't you?
And they go, where do they go?
No. Well, I tried to make up a bunch of shit because I wanted to tell you what it was. And what my answer became, no response. Will you tell me what it is?
Why don't you tell me? And that's the higher power. That's the only way you're going to prove to yourself that there's something there. You got to try it. You got to use it. So I would recommend right now, just don't go through life alone. Get your supports, get your higher power in place, work on these steps, and, you know, choose something in your life that you're willing to let go of today. Just tell yourself, you know what? It's not doing me good. It's making me sick to worry about this. I don't care if it's in the news or you're in your personal life. Just choose one thing you're going to just throw off your plate and see if your day goes a lot easier or a little bit lighter.
It falls under that, you know, people, the subtle art of not giving a fuck.
Yeah. It's the same concept. It's, again, it didn't make any sense to me to start with, but it's one of my most valuable tools today. I don't jump whenever things get crazy right away. I go, okay, let's just deal with this one step at a time. And
you still have the reaction in the beginning, you know. Some days I do it better than other days, you know. But today I can throw that pause button in effect and hold up a minute.
And then you also see other people who can't let go and how much suffering they go through. So to wrap it up, that attachment piece, try to not think of yourself as your computer, or you are not your car, or you are not your house, you are not your kids, and all that stuff. Try to let them go. Just try to trust that something's going to take care of them, and then see if you get good results. Again, you won't believe it till you try it. And this shit works, as we say.
Yeah.
So, any last thoughts on powerlessness, Dan?
Nope, but I've loved jaw-jacking about it. I've got a little juice dose sitting here talking about it. Because this stuff is, man, it's real to me. It's real to you, too. And we're sitting here trying to make it real to you.
Mm-hmm. And it is. It does work. So, we're going to transition now and get into our questions period of the podcast, which, you know what, we ask you every week. And we do have more questions coming in, but we need more. To the iam12recovery@gmail.com. That's our email. iam12wordrecovery@gmail.com. And anything at all. I mean, this is what astounds me is I'm saying, Dan will, we together will offer you all of our experience, strength, and hope, and what our great teachers have given us. So it's like all these other people behind us, men and women, and we will try and help you with any situation you have in your life. And you're telling me you don't have any problems in your life? send us an email. I'll never identify you. I never say who gives their emails, and I will try to respond to every question we get. So let's hear from you, even if it's just to tell us how you're doing on your own journey. So
Yeah. Insert what's going on with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell us about you.
All right. We have 2 questions this week, and then we also have a great comment from one of our episodes that I wish you guys feel free to send more of these. This is very encouraging for both me and Dan, and this is the goal. We want to help people with their journey, and we love to hear feedback like this. So please send this in. This comment says, Christopher and Dan, thank you for all you do. The podcast is great for me. It is opening up my eyes and spirit to so much more. I listened to the podcast on Why Are We Not Talking About Loss and Grief? And as I was sitting here at the computer and broke down in tears thinking about my dad and stepfather, 2 of the greatest men I know in my life, I am going home today after work, and I'm going to work on a personal ceremony to close up my grief with these losses. I see there's a lot of work in this area. It's helping me to allow myself to feel my feelings too. As you know, we all have issues with that. I just allowed the tears to roll, and I kept telling myself it is okay. It's hard to not want to be like trying to not let myself feel so nobody can see me. I get you. I just wanted to say thank you all. This helped me a lot. Love y'all, and thanks. That's what this is all about. And, it's really funny that when you are listening to teachers, whether it's us or a speaker or something, you'll have memories jogged of things that are unresolved or things that you like, oh, wow, I'd never attended to that. Or maybe that's an issue I should look at with my therapist or with my sponsor. And so I love the fact when you said I was just sitting here and I just broke down in tears. That's juice in our book. So, and that's what we want to hear from you all. Please give us that feedback of how you're doing in your journey with some of this stuff, and any troubles you're having, we'll help you with that. But I really hope that works great for you. And I think a personal ceremony is awesome because you get to choose what's going to work for you, might not work for somebody else, but do what's special for you to honor the memory of those 2 great men in your life. And it doesn't have to be a full stop end of just do one and done. You can do it many and more in the future if you want, and ways to honor them. But I think a formal thing to make peace and just say, I really appreciate what you did for me, because so many of us didn't get a chance to say that to the people we love. And as we said earlier, Dan's in the process right now of sharing so much of that with his dad, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Everything he did for you.
Yep. My feels, man. I'm my dad, and I love him, and then I'll get myself, I've cried a bunch lately, and I'm okay with doing that. I'm okay with letting you hear me do that on the phone or even do that here on the podcast. I'm okay with it today. And, that was off limits in the past, right? Do not let them see you show weakness, right? And today that's not what it is. I thought it was. But, yeah. I stayed up to 2:00 in the morning last night with my dad talking about the men that have come through our lives and the different things we've experienced together. And we know we've both been really blessed with a lot of really cool humans that have been, in our lives. And I watched Dad fuzz up too, He can't quite let it go. But yeah, Scott Lee, he's got paper on how to cry. And today I can. I can feel, right?
And if you'd like that copy of that, we can get that to you.
I have it. Okay. You send a email to iam12recovery@gmail.com, and we will poke it at you.
But how great is that, which is not the norm, that on your deathbed or near your death, he's reflecting on all the good things and the positive people, the teachers that came through his life, and not sitting there going, I'm resentful because I'm sick, and I'm resentful because I got to die.
And there was none of that last night.
Really?
There was like zero of that. Of that. It was looking back in gratitude and talking about cool people, cool stuff we've gotten to do.
So,
even all the way back to when he was, a kid, and me and him doing stuff together. And
So this is what I mean about, these normal people that got those classes we didn't get. Your dad is practicing powerlessness.
Yeah. And I've said this to you. I don't know. Only in recovery do I realize this again in the rearview mirror, but I watched my dad over and over again be one of those unique individuals that seem to do the next right thing somehow, like naturally. He's doing it again.
And yet, when it comes to powerless, even though he was that guy, he still couldn't keep you from falling into your drugs and alcohol.
No.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about.
That's very good. So thank you so much for writing, and keep them coming. We love to hear that. We want to make sure that there's people on the other end of the line here that we're sending all these waves out, and we never hear anything. So
yeah, those are great letters. So
Yeah.
just tell us about what the miracles in recovery you're experiencing so we can share it with these people out here.
And even on the comments, too, because people do read comments, and you can really do service work through there, sharing how you're doing with the topic we're talking about, whatever. So, or generate conversations, we'll respond. I threw something out on the Shane Dog one. I forget how I responded, but it was about, he's right now in the running for our top podcast. So, and you should listen to it if you haven't. It's Shane Dog, Rare Breed. Yeah. It's a great podcast.
And he sends that he carries this message, and he carries it through his thing, and he shares his podcasts, and just tries his best, like we're doing, sitting right here, to do our best to try to carry this to whoever wants it.
I love that. All right, let's start our questions here. We got 2 this week, and then I love this one. This starts out and says, what constitutes as a relapse? It says, hey guys, recently we had a gentleman in my group who said he tried drinking mouthwash, but then found out after that it did not contain alcohol. I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at him. I'm laughing with him. This is the brilliance we have.
This is the stuff we do.
When we're thinking about using, we come up with these brilliant plans, and we still fail. We just can't make it work. I tried to kill myself. I wasn't even good at that. All right, back up. However, he found out that it did not contain alcohol. He still had to start his sobriety date over. What do you think about this? Great question. So we have these giants in our program called the elders who started this whole ball rolling. And it's astounding how many issues they covered, especially Bill before he passed away. And where he got all this wisdom in such a short time, it shouldn't have happened, but he did. He accumulated stories. People were always writing letters to him, and he's getting all these stories from people's experience. And one of the things he was big on was motivation. And he harps on that a lot in the big book. You better check your motives, and what are your motives, and what were you trying to do? Now, if I'm at a party and I put down my drink and I accidentally pick up someone else's drink and I'm so thirsty, I actually swallow the alcohol before I realize it has alcohol in it. That is not a relapse. That's called a mistake, and or maybe my sponsor Burns Brady would call it a lapse. You had a lapse in judgment. You made a mistake. Did you continue to drink it and finish it? No. Then that's not a relapse, okay? Then he would say, well, we have this thing called slips. And slips are you're intentionally trying to do something to get high, but you didn't extend it into a full-blown relapse. You had a one-nighter, you had a couple of nights, and then you ran right back to your sponsor, ran right back into treatment, which is the best thing if you're doing that out there. You don't let it go. Run right back into help. And then that's what he would call a slip. Now, you still have to reset your sobriety date from that. Why? Because your motive when you took that was to get high. Your intention was to use this chemical to get an effect. And that motive alone is a lapse and a slip and a relapse in your thinking and in your program. Because that's forgetting what we are, right? To do that, for me to do that tonight, I'd have to completely forget that, oh my God, I'm getting on the crazy train and I'm starting that whole ball rolling again where I'm going to want more and I'm not going to be able to stop. If I forget that, I'm done for. This is why we go to meetings. I've got to constantly remain vigilant. And the people in my life don't understand that. They think, oh, this is something Christopher did a long time ago and it doesn't bother me anymore. No, man. I just heard a story from one of our good Shane in Aftercare today talking about his friend in court yesterday. Guy had 8 years of sobriety. Doing fine. Out of nowhere, he gets this brilliant idea. I can smoke pot. I said, idea. He got this idea. I can smoke pot. And it led to this, led to another. Next thing you know, he's pulled over at some concert or something by these undercover agents, and he's holding all this Molly for distribution. And he's got a record of distribution. So the judge has to throw the book at him. Didn't throw the book at him, but he has to give him time. So he's got to go. They put cuffs on him, took him away for 2 years. One lapse in judgment led to all that. And if I lose that vigilance, I'm screwed. So I don't personally do that. I try to stay with my friends to remind me, oh, yeah, dummy. You might think because it's legal you can do that or this. No, you can't do that, dude. What are you thinking? Oh, you're right. I'm the dumbass. As we say, we're brilliant in every other area of our lives, but when it comes to drinking and drugging, we're dumber than a box of rocks. I don't know why, but we don't see it. It's a blind spot for us. All right, so with the mouthwash thing, he tried drinking the mouthwash. So in other words, he's trying to do something to get high. And since he found out after it didn't contain alcohol, he's drinking it because he thinks it has alcohol because he wants relief. He wants some effect from that. That is definitely a relapse. You've forgotten your fundamentals. You've forgotten who and what you are. And you can't sign off on that and say, no, that's all good. And he needs to go back to step one. He might resent it, but if he'll let go, powerless, and he'll have a little humility, this might actually be a thing that can take him to a much deeper level of recovery. I get people in my group all the time who had time in recovery and they've fallen, and I try to really coach them. There's a reason why you're being taken through this fire again, to become a deeper level teacher, a deeper level person to carry a stronger message. Not that I want anybody out there to go relapse just for that sake. Don't do that. But if your motives are I'm doing this because I want to check out, that's called getting high. So, any thoughts on that, Dan?
Couldn't agree more. If you intentionally did that, and you hear a lot of people. I've heard this in my time where people accidentally drank something and they think they need to reset their sobriety date. And they did not intend. That was not their intention. That was not their motive. But you picked up that mouthwash and then kind of, and it is funny it's not funny. It's
sad.
But
it's
we have to laugh at it at
humorous.
some level,
Humorous.
It's like, God damn it doesn't have no alcohol in it. So can I rewind the tape, brother?
It's worse than that. It's like, if you're gonna relapse, get a bottle. Why would you even bother, man? Except maybe this person was in a halfway house and that's all that was there.
I know this story, and it was a odd arrangement.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we have stories of people drinking cologne. Can you imagine taking out your Polo and oh my God!
I remember in early
desperate
recovery,
you got to be
hearing people talk about drinking mouthwash, and I thought, golly, I can't imagine that. And then down the road, there I was drinking mouthwash. And 4 years I had before meeting you. Yet. I haven't done that
yet. And don't say never. It almost seems like the guys who say never, they're almost like signing a contract where they're going to have to do that.
Yeah.
I'm never going to do a needle. Well, sorry, bro. It's coming. You're snorting. You've gone from taking the pill to snorting. You're already on your way to the needle. Don't kid yourself.
And, and you've taught me this, and I've heard you say this, man. And we put a lot of value on long-term recovery, and that's what we're aiming at. But if you slip up and you learn something from it and you get back on the horse and you keep on walking, that's what we're here to do, right? There's so much shame in a slip, right? Mm-hmm. I don't want to tell anybody. And no, get back on the horse.
And you didn't lose the time you put in. That's still part of your life experience. I always tell people as an example, they talk about seeing your life flash before your eyes before you die. So those years are going to be there. Those years you were sober are going to be there. But you're not.
Everybody does it almost.
Yeah,
There's very few people who jump in recovery and stay sober from day one.
True.
We have to have our journey. We have to stumble through that. I always say everybody stumbles out of the gates.
Yeah. And if we could just view it, though, not as a tragedy because of a date. How silly. But it's just my life story. I'm still, even me sober all these years, we're still struggling to stay sober one day at a time, right?
Yep.
That's the journey.
And those guys that told me about drinking mouthwash, when I found myself doing it, there was a feeling around that, right? I would never do that. Here I am.
Do you remember that moment when it came to that? Did you have any recollection that, am I doing what I said I would never do?
Yeah.
It's so easy to be cocky when you're new in group and you don't have a sobriety date. And everybody will come in and say, I don't really have a problem with this or that or the other thing. I said, That's
not really my thing.
You will. Because you ain't experienced sobriety yet, right? When you lay down your chemicals and you have that day where you got to have something just to not blow your brains out.
I need some relief.
Hell, I'll freaking snort this pen.
Right, yeah.
It's like, well, I'm not getting anything out of it. You'll be desperate.
Yeah. We hear those stories too. Robert talking about picking up crumbs out of the carpet, smoking them to see if that might be something.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Crazy.
Richard Pryor did the same thing.
Yep.
Combing the carpet for his
So, reset your date, get back in the boat, and keep on trucking.
Yeah, and I just heard Burns in my head as we were talking, having that conversation with somebody. Well, now, what was your motive? What were you planning to get out of that? Were you trying to get high? Were you trying to escape? What do you want? Why'd you do that? And if the guy's honest and why he did it, then he has to look at that as there's something wrong with my program, that I could forget who and what I am. And let the devil into that degree that I would think drinking mouthwash is a good freaking idea. You better go back to step one, son. You better.
I mean, Burns had such a great demeanor, man.
Mm-hmm.
I always like
because he could be irascible, or he could be kind, or he could be gruff. He could be all of it.
Yeah, hey, great man.
All right, so great question. Keep them coming. We really appreciate that a lot. That definitely helps some people out there. All right, question number 2 today. Hey, guys, great podcast. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. I have been sober for several years now, and I've seen a lot of death. Some people by going back out, and yet others by cancer. I'm sorry for that, man. I hope it wasn't family members. My question is, how do you deal with this grief in early recovery? I really appreciate any input on the subject you guys can give us from your experiences, and keep up the great work. Appreciate that, man. First off, my heart goes out to you, man. Anytime I have a patient in my group, and it's hard enough, this is a noble, heroic, very unique, and exceptional walk through this world that is so sick today to say, I'm not going to use a chemical just for today. That is a journey that is like the hero's journey, straight out of the Ulysses. But the world doesn't understand, and life's still going to happen. Life is life on life's terms. It's always going to happen. And whenever my group members, they are my family members, get handed a shit pile, like, their kid gets sick and passes away, or I had a patient recently that had to take custody of one of her relatives because there's nobody else to care for them. And it's like, how the hell are you going to deal with that? You know what I mean? On top of everything else you're struggling to do. So I'm sorry you're having to be challenged by this. I would really encourage you to most of all, be careful, because death energy is very dark. And we talked about that earlier, and it's one of our hardest triggers to deal with. And it can overwhelm you, and you can get that sense of what I would relate to hopelessness. Like, okay, well, I'm getting sober, but I'm just going to die anyway, so what's the point? And you can get like, well, they died and they didn't get a chance, and where's God in that? And you can really go down that rabbit hole. So that's why I'm saying you need to really just pull away, even when they're saying you need to be at the funeral, you need to be at the viewing, you need to be at the visitation, you need to be at the blah, blah. Yeah, maybe I can stop in for an hour, but I'm going to discipline myself to say that I'm going to do my hour, and then I'm running to my sponsor's arms to dispel that negative energy. We have a podcast coming up in a couple of weeks about dark energy, and you really need to pay attention to that, because I've seen this. Grief and death is way too overwhelming for early recovery. You just need to jump back and just check out from it. Even if I tell my people, whatever you got to do to get through the night, overeat, oversex, just be careful, wear a condom. Whatever you got to do to get through early recovery, you're gonna be okay in the long run. It'll all work out. But we got to avoid taking that first drink or drug, and grief and death, it's going to suck you down. It's like quicksand. Any thoughts on that, Dan? It's such a hard challenge in early recovery for anybody at any time in
Your
recovery.
supports, man. Talk about it and cry about it to your buddy and your sponsor, and do what you need to do that. But yeah, it's a miracle that I stayed sober through my mom's death. I had 2 vials of morphine and Ativan.
Oh shit!
And I'm putting that in my mom's mouth.
Wow.
Because the hospice said if she's restless, give it to her. And I wanted to stay sober. And when the hospice people said, when she passed, and they said, "Do you have any medications you want to get rid of?" Yeah, that and that. Get it out of here, man.
How much was left? Enough for a good run?
Probably. They were pretty
start.
Decent little size vials. We really had them for a day, so we didn't
I
use
got to
them too
check
long.
at least. There's nothing wrong with checking. How much is
But that
left?
piece of me, I wasn't just right quick. There was that thing I went, yeah, take them.
I tell my patients this. It's this weird aspect, the disease, when it's swinging at you. This is the last vial of this, or this is the last piece of Xanax on planet Earth. You don't dare throw it or toss it away because you'll never get another one ever again. Yeah. Meanwhile, they're manufacturing 1,000 pills right now within this second that I'm talking. Yeah, there's plenty. You don't have to hold on to it.
That was a miracle, and that's part of my story, too, is that I was able to do that when I was I talk about that at times, that I was able to deliver my mom those medications and stay out of them, and that's a fucking miracle.
That is a miracle. And the miracle of helping your dad with his meds right now, and it's not even a problem, right?
Yep. I had to fight to get him some damn real pain pills.
Here's what's crazy. For you newcomers, you're not going to believe this shit. My buddy LJ, who you can hear on one of our podcasts, the Comeback Kid, he's helping his mom through heavy surgery right now, and his mom is unable to swallow. This guy found himself with the task that he had to crush up his mom's pills. You don't understand where this guy came from. That is an impossible miracle of like hitting the jackpot 20 times in a row. That is a miracle that's inconceivable that he could do that. And he said, I didn't feel any temptation at all. I'm talking to you. I'll let you know if I do, but I didn't even think about it.
I went and picked him up from Kroger some more yesterday. And
astounding.
it's just not even a thing.
That's power. From admitting I was powerless, I gained this power.
There is. We didn't. I don't know if we said that, but there is this thing where because I admit my powerlessness and I practice it, I actually get power back.
Mm-hmm. And to use it for everyday people, like our friend who's struggling with letting go of this person that they're upset. If you will to admit you're powerless and let that go, you'll get that power of serenity back, of calm, of control, of feeling safe.
And of course, you ought to feel bad about losing your buddy or your friend or whoever that is. You
got to
it's okay. You got to allow
feelings.
yourself to have permission to do that.
And it's sad too when you said I've seen a lot of death. I think I could put that in almost every one of my patients' resumes, right? When you're in addiction land, you just see a lot of death.
Yep. Yeah, there's another line I throw out. I don't even know death until I got into recovery, because somebody 6, 7, 2 degrees away from me. 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
So somebody in
6
that
degrees
window,
of separation.
I see it. I see it on Facebook. I hear it from other places. I've actually witnessed my close friends die, some of them, and death is a part of life.
Mm-hmm. So, as you said, stick close to your supports, but you really need to pull away from obsessing, feeling obligated, feeling like you have to be loyal and be there for every second. That's a real mistake in early recovery, because you know what's going to happen is you'll relapse and then you won't be there for any of it. And one of the worst things I've ever had to do is counsel people during their 5th step who missed out on not being able to make their amends to their mother or father or whoever they wanted to make amends to. Do not do that, dude. You got to think survival first, then the funeral. Okay. So great questions this week, and we really appreciate it. And if that helps, give us some feedback. Tell us how that worked out for you. We'd love to hear from you. Again, I am 12wordrecovery@gmail.com, and we will address these every week in here. So, all right. Well, thank you for joining us. We greatly appreciate you, and anything you can do to pass this on to somebody else, people you think might be struggling, people you think this might help, just say, here, I saw this today. It was juicy. Helped me out. Thought you might like it. And they either watch it or they don't. But it will not only help another person, service work, but it will raise our analytics so that people can find us. They cannot find us right now. I will search for us. Because I've searched for us, it'll come up for me. But I know for an average person, we're so behind all this other stuff. And my old sponsor gave us a high compliment this past week. You want to know what he said, Dan? He said, I've listened to a buttload, because he's invalid, so that's all he does is listen to it. Says, I've listened to a buttload of teachers and speakers and podcasts. There is nobody out there at all that's doing it the way you guys are doing it. And that's what we want to carry the world. I don't say that to pump up my ego. I say that because this is a rare thing that could help save a life. So don't underestimate your job. Yes, I'm pulling on you, the listener, to freaking comment, like, subscribe, and pass this on. And we need to let more people know where we're at. Okay? Okay. That's all. We don't hit you over the hammer with it, but we need help. We do. All right. We like to close. What?
Thank you, Shane, because he did some work in the past week.
He's been working like crazy. Man. Our numbers have been because Shane's just like, here, check this out, check this out, check this out. And he's doing it to friends. Like, hey, I was on this thing. See if you like it.
Check it out.
They all like it.
Yep.
So, all right. Thank you for being with us. We're going to close with the Serenity Prayer, as we do after every podcast. All right, Dan, would you like to join me? Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Just for today. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. You die if you don't. Woo-hoo. Keep coming back to see us. We love you. Peace.